Hey guys, okay, so I've tried recording this twice. One time it was incredibly disorganized, the other time it was 30 minutes long. I don't think my uh, uploading thing will upload a 30-minute long video, just because, no. But this is going to be a review of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Um, First off, I have to say that I loved it. I knew I was going to love it because of how much I've loved this story since I was little. Even though I haven't read the book until now, I've seen, I think, 4 different adaptations of the film, I've seen 4 different film or television adaptations, 3 of which I loved, and I also have seen the web series, Autobiography of Jane Eyre, which is amazing. So yeah, I've loved this story for years, and I really loved the book. I'm going to try to be very quick about this, or at least keep it under 10 minutes. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. I'm going to talk about this in sections. It's mostly going to be talking about characters, and then I'm going to do it in sections of like Jane's childhood, Thornfield, and then after. Plot and overall language-wise, I think this book is perfect. I love the language, like, as you guys can tell by the 30 or so odd sticky notes in here. I love the language. I love the plot. It's amazing. Characters now. I'm going to talk about characters. Mostly that's what this is going to be, is like a character video, or a character review. Starting in her childhood, I hate all the Reeds. Hate them all. Don't even like her aunt when she's apologizing for what happened, for how she treated her, because the thing is, her aunt, I should warn you guys, only watch this if you have read the book, because I can't talk about this book without spoilers. But yeah, basically when her aunt is like sick and dying, I feel like the only reason she's saying she's sorry to Jane is because she wants to repent before she dies, because then, like, she'll get into heaven, which is just, no. Like, I feel like that is literally the only reason why she's apologizing to Jane, is because she feels like otherwise she will rot in hell, and I don't think she was genuine in her remorse, which, yeah, don't like her character. And I don't like any of her children. John is, like, really mean, so I don't like him, but the 2 sisters are just, they're annoying and not likable characters. I guess I don't hate them as much, but they're still meh. And Brocklehurst runs Lowood, and he is the biggest, pardon my language, asshole ever. He is incredibly mean and unfair and abusive, both emotionally and physically, and he uses religion as, like, his excuse. Like, he is one of those fire and brimstone dudes. Don't like him. Who else? Bessie, I'm kind of indifferent to. I feel like there are parts where she is nice to Jane when Jane is still living at Gateshead, but I feel like she kind of picks and chooses when to be nice to her, so indifferent to Bessie. My 2 favorite characters in Jane's childhood are Helen and Miss Temple. Helen is Jane's childhood friend, who she meets at Lowood, who is also religious. I basically like to think of her as, like, the antithesis of Brocklehurst, because Brocklehurst is mean and terrible and ill-tempered and kind of hides behind his religion for it. But Helen uses her religion to be happy and optimistic. Even during times when bad things are happening to her, she's never negative, she's always sweet. And I think at one point she says to Jane, like, you know, we're not going to be in this life for very long, so, and, you know, I'm going to have my real reward in heaven, so why should any of this bother me, basically. And I just think that that is awesome. So yeah, Helen is amazing and wonderful and fantastic, and very sadly, she dies. I don't remember. I think what she dies of in the adaptations that I've seen is different than what she dies of in the book, but I can't remember which is which, so I'm not going to say what she dies of because I don't really remember. But she very sadly dies, kind of early on. I feel like Jane is maybe there for a year before Helen dies. And Helen was really young, so that was really sad. But Helen is an awesome character. And the other character that I love is Miss Temple. Miss Temple is Jane's teacher at Lowood. She doesn't run the school. She's not like Brocklehurst, but she is one of the teachers there, and she's the only grown-up who is ever really sweet to Jane when she's young. And she's just a genuinely kind, sweet person. Like, before Helen dies, Miss Temple sends for the girls and has tea with them. And I feel like she's a genuinely sweet person, but she's also, specifically with Jane and Helen, I think she's trying to make up for Brocklehurst's treatment of them, because Brocklehurst treats both of them especially bad, so I think Miss Temple is trying to make up for that, and she is just really sweet. And it makes me really sad because every film adaptation leaves Miss Temple out. The only adaptation of Jane Eyre that I've ever seen that includes Miss Temple is actually the autobiography of Jane Eyre, which is the web series on YouTube, and it is awesome, and I love it that they actually include her. They don't actually include her character, but what they do is it starts when Jane is 22, so she talks about her childhood. She tells us stories of her childhood, and she just talks about Miss Temple and how awesome Miss Temple was as a teacher. And so I just thought that was really cool, but it also made me really sad at the same time that that was the only adaptation that ever included Miss Temple, because Miss Temple was one of the only two bright lights in Jane's childhood. So yeah, I love those two. Now moving on to Thornfield. I am kind of indifferent to Miss Fairfax. I like her, but there's times when I'm like, Like, I kind of think at times she's a kiss up to Mr. Rochester, and I also think that she doesn't approve of Jane and Rochester's relationship, but, sometimes I think it's because she is actually protective of Jane, but other times I think it's because she's like, wait a minute, you're a servant, and he's our boss, why are you marrying him? Like, this is messed up. So, yeah, there's times when I don't like her, but, yeah, I guess I'm kind of indifferent, because there's times when I like her and times when I don't, so I guess that means indifference. And Adele, I am sorry to say, Adele is in my dislike category, because, while she's I feel like she's a nice child, she is the most annoying child. Like, she is selfish and really absorbed. Like, she always wants attention, always, and she's obsessed with presents and dancing, and she's just very, very self-absorbed, I guess, and kind of shallow. Shallow was the word I was looking for. So yeah, I'm sorry, but she goes in the dislike category because she's annoying. And I also don't like Blanche, or her family, mostly because of how they look at Jane, and just how they look at people lower on the totem pole than themselves in general. Don't like them. And, I'm trying to think of other people at Thornfield. Bertha? I feel bad for Bertha at times, but other times I'm like, Bertha, you are crazy. She is crazy. She is. Legitimately, but there's times when I feel bad for her, mostly with everything to do with Rochester. I feel bad for her, but when it comes to her, sneaking into Jane's room and, trying to light Mr. Rochester's bed on fire, then I'm like, whoa, no, so, yeah, Bertha, I do feel bad for her at times, but her character is crazy. Um, and as far as Jane and Rochester themselves, Rochester is mostly on my dislike list as far as his actions go. I don't think he doesn't treat women well at all, including Jane, the majority of the time. Like, it really bothers me that he thinks that he treats her as an equal and she thinks that he treats her as an equal, but he's pretty condescending a lot of the time. I mean, sometimes she, like, takes care of herself and she's like, oh, I'm gonna, like, tease him right back if he's gonna tease me. But sometimes he's legit condescending and she lets it slide. And then obviously the biggest thing between those two is when she finds out about Bertha. And, I mean, he lied to her for months and legitimately made her think that she was crazy. Like, he made her think that she was crazy. And yet, he's like, I love you. But yeah, I definitely tricked you into thinking that you were going crazy for a little bit because you thought something was wrong. And I was like, no, there's nothing wrong. So yeah, no. Yeah, I don't like Rochester most of the time because of his actions. He just doesn't treat women well, and his actions, like, mostly I feel like if he had told Jane the truth from not necessarily the very beginning, but like because he couldn't, like, you know, she couldn't show up at the house and he's like, oh, by the way, I have a crazy wife in the attic, are you still cool to work here? He couldn't say that, but he could have, like, once he got to know her, he could have said, hey, I feel like I can trust you with this because I know you and I do feel like you are trustworthy. So there's something I need to tell you. I feel like she would have been much more, like, I would have liked him a lot better, and I feel like things could have gone very differently if he had done that earlier on than he did, rather than being like, oh, hey, you're crazy for thinking something's wrong, and will you marry me? No. No. Yeah, so, but the thing about Rochester that I do like is that he does seem to genuinely love Jane. He just goes about it the entirely wrong way. But also my favorite thing that is said in this book is said by Rochester, and it's when he's proposing to her, and he says what I call the string speech. I don't know if that's legitimately what it's called, but he says that he feels like he has a string tied to his rib, and that the same string is tied to Jane, and that if she left Thornfield, that cord of communion would snap, and that he would take to bleeding inwardly. And I just think that that was a very weird but incredibly sweet way to say that you love someone. Like, it's just so passionate, and I love that. So, yeah. When it comes to him describing how he loves Jane, I guess I like that, and I like that he does love her, but I just think that he goes about things entirely the wrong way. So he's mostly in my dislike, but somewhat in my like category. Jane, I really like her most of the time. The only thing that I don't like is that she takes stuff from Rochester that I don't think she should. Mostly the condescension, and mostly that when he says, oh, nothing's wrong, like, she takes it. And I'm like, no, like, how do you just trust? No, like, seriously. And yeah, there's times when I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Especially, like, okay, this scene, like, is twofold for me liking and disliking Jane. I love it that Jane actually was brave enough to leave Thornfield after she found out about Bertha, but it bothers me so much that it took her a day. Like, if I found out that the person that I loved, who said he wanted to marry me, like, if I found out that he had another wife, and that he hid it from me, and that he made me think that I was crazy for thinking that something was going on for months, I would be out of there like the Flash. I would be out of there. And Jane waited a day, and I was like, what do you know? Like, I know you love him. I realize you love him. I realize you're trying to process, but you do not give him time to explain himself, you GTFO woman. Like, yeah, yeah. So Jane, I'm kind of like, I love her most of the time, but some of her decisions, I'm like, no. Um, okay, now for the end portion. St. John and Mary and Diana Rivers. Oh, and then Rose Oliver is also in this section. When Jane runs away, that's who she ends up accidentally running to, is St. John and his sisters. I forget where they live, but anyway. I love Mary and Diana Rivers. They are both amazing in the book and in every portrayal that I've ever seen, especially Autobiography of Jane Eyre. That is the best portrayal of them and that time that I've ever seen, just because I feel like that adaptation really, how do I put this? It really shows the friendship that develops between Jane and these girls, and also St. John, who's called Simon in that adaptation. But yeah, it's really a great adaptation. So yeah, I love Diana and Mary. St. John, no, I don't actually. He's actually in the dislike category, which is interesting because I feel like some people sort of feel the same way Jane feels, where they're like, oh, your heart's in the right place, you're just kind of an idiot, and you're sort of proposing the wrong way. And I feel like some people do like his character. No, I don't. Because the thing is, in the adaptations that I've seen, I like his character up until the proposal, but in the book, he's so much worse. Like, in the book, he just reads by himself all the time. He is incredibly antisocial. He is very close-minded, kind of controlling. Just, no, I just don't like him in the book. And then the proposal is the worst. For me, that's Jane's best moment and St. John's worst. He proposes to her. He was like, oh, hey, you should come to India with me, and you have to marry me in order to come to India with me. And she's like, I mean, I think I can go and not be your wife. And he's like, oh, no, that would be so improper. And basically when she says that the only way she'll go to India with him is if they don't have to get married, he tries to force her into it by saying that it's like God's will for her and his calling for her, which just really, and oh my gosh, the way he says it. At one point, he's like, I claim you as my own, but not for my own pleasure, but for God's will. And the way he says it, I'm like, no. Are you kidding me? No. And that is my happiest moment with Jane, because she also has that similar thought and is like, haha, heck no. No, I'm sorry. She's nicer about it, though. Like, she's like, oh, I love you, but I love you as a brother, not as a husband, and I need to love the man that I marry, so I can't marry you. I'm sorry. So, yeah, that is the best moment with Jane, in my opinion, is when she refuses St. John. But the thing about his being idiotic is that he not only, like, he just doesn't get it. Like, they have this conversation 3 different times, and it takes until the day before he leaves for him to finally understand. Like, he's like, oh, I'm leaving tomorrow, and she's like, oh, okay, bye, like, we'll miss you. And he's like, oh, you're not coming with me? And she's like, no, I already said I wasn't going to marry you. And he's like, oh, really? Like, they had that conversation 3 different times. And also, like, another reason why I just really don't like St. John is because he has this girl, Rose, who loves him legitimately, which I guess I understand before he goes kind of a little bit crazy with Jane. Like, I could understand it a little. But yeah, those two legitimately love each other, but he thinks that because she's an heiress, she, like, won't want to go with him to India, but instead of asking her how she feels about it and, like, what she wants, he basically decides for both of them by not proposing and not doing anything, and he, like, really doesn't give her the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, if you really love someone, you would give them the benefit of the doubt and ask them how they feel, not just be like, hey, I'm going to make this decision for us, which is, we're not going to be together. And because of that, she goes off and marries somebody else who she probably doesn't love as much as she loves him because he's an idiot. And yeah. Okay, that was my St. John rant. I don't like him. But yeah, so overall, there are so many characters in this that I do really love, and I love so many parts of this book, and it was such a great read. I really enjoyed it. I really love Jane's relationships with a lot of these people. I love so many of the speeches in it, or the descriptions and the dialogue in it. I just think that the language is gorgeous. Charlotte Bronte really knew how to write. Between 4.5 and 5 stars, because I really can't decide. And yeah, I really loved it so much more than Wuthering Heights. Like, in comparison, to me, there is no comparison. Like, this is awesome. Wuthering Heights was not. So yeah, I love it. And my next video is going to be a review about, it's going to be a review of the film adaptation, specifically the 1944 Joan Fontaine, Orson Welles adaptation, because I used to love it, but now that I've read the book and I understand how different the adaptation is from the book, I feel like I need to rant about that a little bit, because I feel like the changes are unnecessary and I don't really know why they changed it. But anyway, that's going to be my next video, is that review. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this review, and if you guys have read it. And thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for hanging in there for this long, because hopefully this is shorter than half an hour, but I don't actually know how long this review is. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.